Welcome back to the Van Build, episode number 2. My name is David Lieb and I'm building the ultimate mountain bike camper van. In the summer of 2023, I picked up a Mercedes Sprinter 4x4 and began dreaming of the ultimate mountain bike rig. In the last episode, we covered tearing everything out, lizard skin insulation. In this episode, we're going to be installing the diesel heater, swivel seats, and the floor. Follow along and let's get right into it. I started things off by removing the front seat. It's critical to disconnect your vehicle's starting battery before you unplug anything on the seat. Otherwise, you'll get a super annoying error code that only a Mercedes technician can remove. Also, I've learned from experience that the Mercedes dealer will likely make a huge deal about this, so it's best to just do things carefully and avoid the error code altogether. I spent a few minutes envisioning where the heater would sit and ultimately settled for a spot on the far side of the passenger seat box. Always make sure to keep a clean workspace and vacuum up all the metal chips. You don't want these to be an igniter for rust later on. I always make an effort to paint all the raw metal on the van for this same reason. These diesel heaters are such a fantastic little invention. I've had the Webasto STC Airtop 2000 in all my previous vans, so I figured I'd just continue with this because it's been working so great. Also, it's important to note that these things can be very finicky at high elevations, so you might have to look into getting it tuned. That brings me to my next point. You want to order these from a dealer in your country because there's different wiring packages and you want to get one with service information according to your location. What I mean by this is don't buy the European version or the Russian version if you live in America. Finding a dealer to service it will be almost impossible. For now, I'm just installing the upper portion of the heater. I'll be connecting it to the diesel tank and running the exhaust later. I chose the Scopema swivel from the Swivel shop. The reason I went with this swivel as opposed to the others is due to its low profile. Many swivels add a ton of height to the seat, and this one doesn't even add a full inch. In some of the Ford Transits I've built, the bolt holes for the swivel did not line up, but in this Sprinter, they lined up perfectly. If they don't line up, you just have to bore out the holes in the swivel a bit and then it'll work. Some versions of the Sprinter seats have a little knob that you have to grind off. Easy fix with an angle grinder and a cutoff wheel. Finally, it's time to begin the flooring. In episode 1, I explained how I would be reusing the stock Sprinter subfloor. If you haven't seen that, don't forget to go check it out. If there's one thing I've learned from years and years of van life, choose your floors wisely. Camper vans will see a huge variety of temperatures, which results in a massive variable of thermal expansion. This means that on hot days, your floor is going to expand, and on cold days, it's going to contract. The flooring that goes in your house is designed for a much more stable environment. If you use it in a van, you're going to have problems. I chose to go with Rec Pro RV coin flooring. This stuff is super durable, resists thermal expansion, and it also just looks really good. As for the kind of glue I use, I always use an outdoor carpet glue. The Rec Pro coin is carpet back, so it works really well with carpet glue. At this point, to keep everything flat, I just found as much random stuff as I could to pile on top of it while it dries. At this point, I thought it would be a great time to start the overhead cab shelf. There are a ton of options when it comes to this. I decided to go with a $45 DIY Amazon kit that I found, which would utilize a lot of the scrap plywood that I had laying around. The kit comes with 4 mounting brackets and a paper template to trace your shelf. The template wasn't super accurate, but I was able to make a few adjustments to make it work perfectly. I had a few extra sheets of 1/2 inch Baltic birch laying around, which made for really good stability without overdoing it on the weight. Always make sure to do a few dry fits to make sure that everything looks right before you get too far into the process. This overhead shelf would see the first round of spray glue that I used for this van. Again, choosing the right glue is critical for the wide variety of temperatures that the van will see. I cannot stress it enough, 3M90 does not hold up to the high temperatures of the summertime heat. With that said, I chose to go with Weldwood contact adhesive, which I'll link below. The only downfall of this product is if you put it on too heavy, you can see a yellow tint come through the fabric. So just be careful to not overdo it. Back to the floor. Now that everything's dry, it's time to cut the excess off and get it ready to install. This stuff cuts reasonably easy with a fresh razor blade. If your blade's dull, it's going to be more of a problem, so I definitely changed out my blade a few times just to make the process easier. Van floor insulation is something that most people would probably disagree with me about. What I've concluded after years of van life is that the floor is always going to be cold unless you have some kind of heating system within the floor. I made the decision for this van that a simple thermal break of Reflectix would be enough for me, and I'm pretty happy with that. A thin floor also allows for much more headroom, which I know the tall folks will appreciate. To make up for the added thickness of the Reflectix insulation, I just added a few washers below the D-ring plates so that nothing sucked down and made the floor super unlevel or weird. Keeping the factory seat rails is something that I always wanted to have in a van. To have the option to go back and forth between a back seat and cabinetry depending on what your van needs are at the time is going to be awesome, and I can't wait to haul some friends around on some road trips. Well, that wraps it up for episode 2. I'm super stoked on the progress so far. If there's anything you want me to specifically cover in these van build videos, leave a comment below. If you liked the video, make sure you subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.